Hello everyone, greetings of the day. Welcome you all for the 16th video of learning Swift programming language. These are the topics that we have covered from the video 1 to video 4, video 5 to 8, 9 to 12 and then 13 to 15. Let's move towards the today's topic. The first topic that we are going to see today is API, Application Programming Interface. This is an important topic. In simple terms, if we want to define API means it's like a restaurant concept. The customer orders food from their table and from the kitchen the food will be prepared. API is the waiter who come and ask what food you have been required and communicate that with the kitchen and provide you back the food. API does the same role. Here it will connect the two different worlds, that is the front end as well as the back end. Definitely don't want to be the back end, it can be another software as well. So like that API will communicate these two ends and provide you what are the details it has been required. That is the main role of API. There are various types of APIs available. The mostly we will be using the RESTful APIs, and the usage is for the web services and all the communication between the client side and server side, and for mobile application for fetching data from the server ends, and for the IoT devices to send data, receiving, and for their communications. So these, based on the usage only, we will be selecting which type of API we are going to use. This is about the RESTful API. The second API is SOAP API. This kind of APIs will be using in the enterprise applications, like kind of a CRM application and all, where secure and standardized communication is required. Also for the financial services like banking applications, where security is the main concern, means we'll be using SOAP APIs. As well as the government and healthcare, where we need to require a strict compliance with the standards. In these cases and all, we'll be choosing the SOAP API to work. These are the other type of APIs: GraphicQL API, WebSocket API, Open API, and Private API. So based on what our application is doing and what it is required, we'll be choosing the type of API. Now I will show in the real world with an Open API how this API is working and how we are fetching data about this. Now we are going to see about this API in a mobile. So here we have provided a URL and this is a pin code. So if we provide a different pin code, based on that we will receive this data. So this format here, what I have listed is the JSON format, and it is a lightweight and easy to understand and often used between the servers and web application. So if I provide a different pin code here, you can see that the data here has been changed. So like this, we are creating an application now. In that application only we are providing this pin code, and based on this pin code we will be receiving these data. Let's see how to do that in code. Here the first step is designing in the storyboard. So after opening a project, we are coming to the storyboard, and in the first screen I'm just providing a label here. Just enter pin code and a text field here and a button, and in the next screen I'm providing the place name as a label, latitude, state, and longitude. What are the values need to be there will be coming in these places, and then added this to the navigation controller. After this I have mapped this with the two view controllers. I have first view controller and the second view controller. That is, for this screen the first view controller will be there, and for this screen second view controller. I'm mapping this buttons and text field to the respective view controllers that you can see here. See, this text field I have mapped to this first view controller. Again this button I have been mapped. Likewise each labels to the second view controller I have been mapped here. So this is the first step we have been done with the storyboard. As you can see here, I have been used the architectural style of MVC, that is the model, view and controller. In model, we have been added our business logic. In view, I have been added the storyboard, and the controller is the mediator between the model and view. There we have mentioned our controllers. So let's see about our first view controller. As I said, this UI text field I have named as pin TF, that is pin text field. I have been mapped to this first view controller. As we have studied before, we have delegate methods available for this text field. In order to get that, I have been added the UI text field delegate here and marked that delegate as self. After that, I have been mapped the submit button as well. So in the first screen, only two things I have been mapped to this first view controller. One is the text field and the next one is the submit button. So what need to happen when I click on the submit button? Immediately the end editing will be called. That is, the keyboard will be disappeared when I click on the submit button, as well as text field should return. That is, in the keyboard when we click on the return button also, the keypad will get disappears. Text field should end editing. This is the place where we are providing the placeholders. So once, if there is any text, nothing will be happen. If there is no text, then this enter pin code will be replaced in the text field. So this is the last method. Here we are fetching the pin code what we have written there. So if there is a pin code, we are passing here, that I will explain about this function. After that, we are making that text field to blank. So this is the first thing we are doing in this first view controller with the text field. Now we have seen that with a text field, while we enter some pin code, how to fetch that data. Before moving to the API, this is the next step that we want to do. So we know that this is the JSON output that we are going to get if we run this URL. We need to make a model with the required parameters, because from the API we may get a lot of datas. We can filter out what all the datas we have been required for our application. See here, I'm getting country abbreviations and then uh, state abbreviations and all. So I don't want to use here. So I just want to create a same model of that JSON into my code. So I have provided a struct in the name of pin model that need to be of codable. So this thing we can able to encode as well as decode. For that, we need to mention this model as a codable protocol. Here I'm taking the country. Initially in this format, the first thing we have get the country. Even the postcode we can take, or postcode is the thing what we are entering. So the country I'm using as it as a string. And the places is an array. See, in this array we can have multiple datas. So in this array I have been defining here, this is an array of details. So the detail structure I have been mentioned here separately, that also need to be codable. So from this details, what I'm taking is state, I'm taking latitude and longitude I'm taking. So this places is an array of details. In that we are having these three things. So similar, this name need to be similar here. Then only we can able to fetch data from that API. There should not be any mismatches between the cases as well as spellings. So in this API, we need to initially create a model like this. What all the required data we need to take from the API, same thing we need to create a model here. And this is the another struct I have been created as a result model. So these are the four parameters I have been required to use in my application. So initially in this pin model, I have made this similar to the API output. After that, I'm getting the details here. I will fetch the details from here to my result model and use in our application. After defining this pin model and result model, in this model file, only the actual API calling is happening. You see here, initially we have mentioned a URL. This URL is similar to this URL, but here we doesn't have this pin code. So this pin code alone we are getting from the text field what we are entering. See, I have defined a structure here of pin finder. In that, I'm providing this is the base URL. So on top of this base URL, I'm adding the pin code what I'm entering. So the pin code I'm entering here in the first view controller. So here I'm creating an instance for this pin finder structure. So that is pin struct. After that, we have learned about this delegate. Here we are fetching the data of what we have entered in the text field. So if the text field is having a text, we are passing to the pin struct, that is the instance we have created. In that instance of the structure, I'm mentioning a function of get code. In this get code, I'm providing this pin code. So the pin code what I have entered in the first screen will reach here. After I'm getting the pin that I have entered in the first screen here, I'm combining this pin URL and the pin that I have got and assigning to this URL string. That is this URL string is a string. It's a combination of this pin URL and the pin number what I have entered. After this, I'm passing this URL string into another function of perform request. This is the place where API calling is happening. Here we have 4 steps. Initially, we are getting the URL string, that is in the browser what we have entering is that URL string. We are getting that. Now we need to change that string into an URL. That is the first thing we are doing here. Create a URL. So we are receiving the string here that I'm passing here and converting it to a URL and assigning to this URL. After creating an URL, if I'm getting an URL, I'm using the if-let statement here. In this case, it will enter to the next step, that is create a URL session. Let session equal to URL session we are defining here. After that, for this session, I'm giving a task. This is the task I'm assigning and start a task. So these are the 4 steps of API calling. First, we need to create a URL and a session. We need to provide a task for a session and we need to start a task. Start a task nothing means after entering the URL, we are just click on the return button, right? So that is task.resume. Here is the important thing after that. Giving session a task. So this session dot data task, we are passing this URL here. In this case, we may get 3 things, that is data, response or error. If we are getting an error, immediately that error need to print in console and we need to return this. That's all, nothing will happen afterwards. But if we are getting a data, this is our result. So if we are getting a data from this URL, we need to take that data and convert as appropriate format. That is what we are doing here. So again, I'm using the if-let statement. Save data equal to data means I'm passing that save data into another function, that is function parse here. This function parse will return a type of result model. This result model we already have defined here. So these are the 4 parameters that we are going to return from this function parse. And then initially I have mentioned the decoder as like this because we are receiving the output from the API calling as JSON. So I want to decode it first. So that I'm entering here. I have mentioned a do catch block. So if there is any error, it will be catched here and written as nil. If it enters here, using the try keyword, I'm decoding here. So decoder dot decode. So this pin model already I have been defined again here. So this I have been defined similar to the output of API. So in this model, I want to decode this pin data. See, that is what I have explained here. Decoder dot decode. This is I'm going to decode, and this is the format for the decode. This is the similar format of output. So the pin model dot self. In this model, I'm going to decode and saving that in the decoded data. After that, I have four constants I have been entering here. Country means decoded data, that is the pin model here, dot country. State means decoded dot data dot places. In that array of first, I'm taking the state, longitude and latitude for this constants here. After receiving these four constants, I'm passing here into the result model that we have seen here. In the result model for country, state, longitude and latitude. So these four parameters I'm passing into the result and I'm returning that result. So this is what happening in this parsing function. So when I return this result, it will reach here. So I'm calling the parse function here. While I returning, it will save the result here. After that, if I got the result, it will enter it and acting the delegate. Here, the delegate that I have been set as result manager delegate. So this is the protocol here. For this result manager delegate, already we have a function of did update. So if I'm having a result, it will enter inside and it will pass that result into the did update function. So wherever we have been kept the delegate, it will execute there. See, if it reaches here, immediately it will go to the first view controller and this function will get activated, because this first view controller already we have mentioned it will abide the protocol of result manager delegate, and after that we have created an instance for this structure pin finder here as pin struct and assign the delegate to self. So in this case, whenever we are calling this delegate function, it will reach in this first view controller and activate the function mentioned here. So this delegate function along with the result, it will reach here. After that, this result data I have been decoding again and assigning to these four constants. This four constants, place, latitude, longitude, state, I have been mentioned here in this first view controller. So it will be assigning there, and as usual performing a segue to the next screen. So before performing this segue, prepare for segue will be happening. So in this prepare for segue, I'm already having the parameters mentioned here, that is place, latitude, state and longitude. So when I'm creating a segue for the next screen, here the destination vc dot place means it will reach here, and for these four variables I'm assigning the value of place, latitude, longitude and state that I have received here. After assigning, it will reach to the second screen. In the second screen, if I have data for these four variables, while it loading, what will happen means I have mentioned the labels here: p label, lat label, s label and long label. These four label dot text will be replaced with the values that I have received from the previous screen. So I will run this again and show you. When we run, it will reach to the first screen and will be having a text field and a button. So here I'm entering the pin code, and after that entering the button, it will take to the second screen along with the data from this pin code. So it have provided me the place name, latitude, longitude and state. So if I enter the pin code, it will be attached along with this URL. After that, it is hitting the URL and taking the data. From the data, we have been required only these four values that I have been taking and assigned to the label here in the second screen. So this is about the API project. Before wrapping the session for today, I just want to explain this topic as well. This topic I have missed from the video 14, so I have added here. This is the UI activity view controller. From our application, if we want to save something or if we want to share with other social media platforms or to others, this UI activity view controller will help. I will run this in an application and show you. See, this is the application where I'm going to explain about the UI activity view controller. Here we have seen a button. So if I click on this, this pop-up will come. Here we can have multiple actions that we can take. If we want to save files, I'm running this in a simulator so that I'm not getting the social media things like Facebook, Twitter. So whatever we want to share means that options also will be available here. And if you want to copy or any actions we can able to do from this UI activity view controller. Let's see how to do this in code. See, in this example, I have added a view controller and a image view and an image into that image view. After that, I have added a navigation view controller from this editor.embedded in navigation controller, and in the navigation controller I have added a button. As you know, from the object library here I can drag and drop the button here. So this button and this view controller I have linked to the second view controller, and this button I have been linked to the share button tabbed. So if I click on this button, this share button tapped function here will get activate. So for that image view I have been added here, and then this is what will happen when I click on the share button tapped icon. So initially the image view dot image I'm taking into this constant of text. After that, here I'm explaining a constant activity view controller. This is the code. So only this much code is enough to show that pop-up. In that pop-up, everything will be handled by the iOS itself. So here UI activity view controller, what is the activity what need to do? This is the text item, that is this image that we are having. I'm taking into this activity item. So after that, this is going to presenting here. So if I run this, you can see that. So if I click on this, if I want to save the files, I can save it. But one more thing you need to do, if you want to have save image option here. Now you are having only the save to files option. So if you click on the save to files option, it will be saved on my files but not in the images. So if I go and check into the files, I can see that I have saved the image here but not into my photos. So inside my photos it is not storing it. So in order to do that, you need to add one more thing. So in order to show the save image button, we need to add one line in this info. This is the info.p list, that is information property list. This is the place where we are providing information about our application before it runs. So we need to add a row here. We can click a row here or right click on this and click on add row. In this you can type for privacy, there will be a lot of options will be available. In that, you can use the photo library addition usage description, and here you can add any string that you want to show as an additional information to the user. After this, if I run and click on this button, you can see the save image option available. So if I click on the save image, you can see a dialog box that the project one would like to add to your photos. So this is the Vivek, this is the description that I have provided here. That description you can able to see here. And if I click on allow, and if I go to the home and onto the photos, you can see the image that we have saved there. See, so this is the usage of UI activity view controller. So with this, we are wrapping the session for today. Thank you.